Sandra Garrett.
I'm the second speaker, but Phil Sevilla is CDP is 3 minutes to me. So like 6 minutes.
You'll have 6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay. All right, good evening. My name is Sandra Garrett. I'm a local attorney here in San Antonio. My address is 3711 Medical Drive, so I'm in District 8. And I would like to address the zoning issues relevant to 2140 Babcock Road. I would like to ask city representatives to immediately halt the ongoing construction at 2140 Babcock so that legal, health, and safety issues can be addressed prior to the opening of this facility. Before I get into the actual zoning issues, Ron, I would like to thank you for promptly addressing the earlier attempt to use Beverly May, a very narrow residential street, for access to the back of 2140 Babcock. I know that, I don't know if any of the neighbors are here, but I know they have expressed to me that they really appreciate you doing that for them. I also want to go on record as thanking the staff and development services for informing us today that they are beginning to review the plans for this construction. We're simply asking the city to follow its own zoning code, and we look forward to a resolution of the current zoning violations. First, the property at 2140 Babcock is zoned C1, and thus the property acts as a buffer between the adjacent Dream Hill Estates neighborhood and higher intensity commercial tracts along Babcock. The zoning should remain a C1, which would bar the continued construction of this proposed facility. C1 districts accommodate local neighborhood commercial uses. Hence the emphasis in C1 districts on pedestrian-friendly businesses with transparent windows. According to the code, the city code, the ground floors of all buildings in the C1 designation shall be designed to encourage pedestrian scale activities so the uses are visible from and or accessible to the street. Where windows are used, they shall be transparent. Transparent windows, according to the code, permit a person standing outside of a building to view shapes, tones, and objects inside the building. The recently installed windows at 2140 Babcock are not transparent because a person standing outside is not able to view shapes, tones, and objects inside the building. The windows are actually almost opaque. The uses are not visible from and or accessible to the street, probably because this was never intended to be a neighborhood pedestrian scale facility appropriate to a C1 designation. While local neighborhood medical clinics are permitted in C1, the site plans for 2140 Babcock and the later purchase of 2134 Babcock, an adjacent lot which will be used perhaps as additional parking or as additional medical facilities, indicate that this property was never intended to be a neighborhood medical clinic. The clinic, per the city code, is a building in which physicians carry on their profession. The clinic shall not include inpatient care or operating rooms for major surgery. Most neighborhood medical clinics do not primarily include surgical services to patients. Primarily here should be understood in terms of revenue generated to keep the facility operational. Furthermore, clinics appropriate to a C1 focus on attracting business from the neighborhood. People generally use the closest medical clinic to their work or home address. Instead, all evidence indicates this property is intended to be used as a regional ambulatory surgical center, an ASC, dependent upon extensive revenue from South and West Texas as well as the city of San Antonio. C1 is not appropriate for an ambulatory surgical center. Other ASCs in San Antonio are primarily zoned C3, not C1. A few are zoned C2. But they're zoned C3 because they are regional. Okay? They must reach out to communities beyond the city to remain financially solvent. While the UDC does not have a definition for ASCs, ambulatory surgical centers, the state defines an ASC as a facility that primarily provides surgical services to patients who do not require overnight hospitalization. Thus, an ASC may provide other services, but the ASC is able to remain open primarily because of the revenues generated by surgical services. C1 is also not appropriate for laboratories, according to the city code. A laboratory is a building or part of a building devoted to the testing and analysis of a product or animal. The lab indicated in the site plans is approximately 20 feet by 18 feet. There has been some concern about the use of this lab for the harvesting of human remains. The size of this proposed facility, approximately 18,000 square feet, and the total renovation cost over $1.5 million, according to the state licensing and regulation website, will require aggressive marketing beyond the city. This was never intended to be a local C1 facility. It is being renovated to be a C3 regional ambulatory surgical center. Again, we are asking city representatives to stop the construction of 2140 Babcock immediately so that legal and other issues can be addressed prior to the opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Sylvia Villarreal.
Good evening. Kelly Gretchel is here, by the way. She just arrived. And I know she was number one.
Okay, Kelly's yielding her time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you'll have to.
No, I'm saying she's here.
Oh, she's here. Okay, I'll call you in a second.
Okay. Well, good evening. I'm Sylvia Villarreal. Now, as I'm here because I'm a very concerned citizen and taxpayer of San Antonio. I'm in District 9. I'm very disappointed in our elected officials at this time for not defending our city from the expansion and continued occupation of an organization like Planned Parenthood that blatantly performs genocide on the most vulnerable of all human beings, and that is the unborn. And that is the truth. And undeniably, it does it for profit. That is there. They have a financial statement and report publicly available. This is a disgrace for our city. This is truly a disgrace, especially when we have so many things going on in our beautiful city as far as parks and recreation and all this promotion and diabetes and the family. I ask that our city officials, you, to please take a good look at the social and moral environment of our city and its future. Please, I ask you to disallow Planned Parenthood from opening at 2140 Babcock. It will become a mega abortion. It's 20,000 square feet from what I understand, and that was disclosed in an article in the Express News on October 11, 2014. This facility is, to me, it's very suspicious that it will not do that it will take care of women, and it's only doing about 2,800 abortions. And if you look at 2,800 abortions a year, I've done some research, that equals to about 4 elementary schools in that area of Dream Hill Estates and Glen Oak. I mean, if you take the tally, it's right under 20, it's close to 3,000 children. That's 4 elementary, children, 4 schools that will totally be wiped out off the face of the earth by this abortion clinic. I ask you again to please take a further look at this facility from its expansion in our fair city of San Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Kelly Gretchel.
Thank you, sir, for having me. I'm sorry I'm late. My first time in this beautiful building. My name is Kelly Gretchel, and I will be speaking about the Planned Parenthood at 2140 Babcock. The new mega Planned Parenthood being built in Medical Center has put San Antonio on the map as the new abortion capital of South Central Texas. Why is such a large center being built in a city that already has open abortion clinics? This abortion facility was conceived due to the imminent passing of House Bill 2, better known as HB 2. The media would have you believe that the passing of HB 2 mandates the closure of abortion clinics. This is simply not true. In the summer of 2013, House Bill 2 was passed. The bill says all facilities that perform abortions must be up to ambulatory surgical center standards. Doctors who perform abortions must have hospital admitting privileges to a hospital within 30 miles. Abortions are not legal after 20 weeks. Thus improving health care for women seeking an abortion. Although abortions make up 10% of Planned Parenthood's business, it accounts for over a third, and some numbers even as high as 94% of their revenue. As HB 2 went into effect, abortion clinics had to decide whether to spend money on upgrades or just provide non-abortive services such as STD testing and birth control distribution. Many clinics chose to shut down rather than make the necessary upgrades. This left Texas with only 7 abortion clinics in urban areas. In the summer of 2014, Whole Women's Health, another abortion chain, challenged the standard, saying that the drive was too far for some rural women seeking abortion. Because HB 2 sets to elevate the care of women who are undergoing invasive procedures, it is likely it will stand up to these challenges. The Fifth Circuit Court still needs to have its official ruling. The current Planned Parenthood saw this opportunity to capitalize on women in crisis and chose to build a 20,000 square foot abortion center here in San Antonio, which meets HB 2 standards. This is miles from the rural population Planned Parenthood claims it wants to serve. Also, San Antonio already has an abortion clinic on the south side, South Cross. Because this clinic's goal is to serve South Central Texas, there will be a huge influx of women from the Valley and even West Texas. I believe this facility is unnecessary and does a disservice to the city of San Antonio by creating a situation where women in crisis will be bused into residential areas in a last resort attempt to get help from a company that only sells one option, abortion. The media seeks to promote abortion as a rare procedure. This new Planned Parenthood has decidedly made abortion common in San Antonio. The Mission City, home of the beautiful River Walk, will now be synonymous with the tragic act of abortion. Let Planned Parenthood take their services elsewhere. Let's not let them build in our beautiful city. And all my information is taken from the San Antonio Express article, October 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. We have a group next. Concerned citizens of Greenville Estates, Thelma Franco, Tina Luther, and Lori Rojas. You'll have 6 minutes.
Hello, I'm Tina Luther and I live and work in the medical center. I thank you for allowing my neighbors, Lori Rojas, Thelma Franco, and I to speak on behalf of the neighbors from Greenville Estates who are concerned about the new Planned Parenthood facility located directly across and around from homes, facilities that serve children. This will be the new Stronghold location and its current clinic at, moving from its current clinic at 104 Babcock with 13,000 square feet of space, which will be closing and moving to this new site, which will offer 20,000 square feet of space, expanding space by nearly 54%. It happens to be on the block catty corner from where I live. Here are some maps which can orient you better. Unfortunately, my neighbors found out about the new clinic the same day that a San Antonio Express News article was published on October 11th. According to the CEO of Planned Parenthood of South Texas, services are expanding. Here are copies of the article. 2,800 abortions are expected to be performed there, which is about 10% of their business. The other 90% of their clientele will be seeking other services such as STD screenings and family planning services. In short, this new site is going to bring approximately 30,000 new people to our neighborhood. That's a lot of foot traffic. And it made me wonder what things are like at their current site and what we might expect from our new neighbor within the near future. I looked on the San Antonio Police Department's website for police calls that were placed from January 1st to December 1st of this year. Here's the data should you wish to look at it. Within 4 days during the past week, from November 27th to December 1st, the area in the block of 104 Babcock, which is a physical address for the current Planned Parenthood location, has experienced 11 police calls. This consisted primarily of property crimes and crimes against persons. In my neighborhood, we averaged 11 calls for every 4 months. We've had 31 police calls since January. However, one of the changes we've seen in the last few months since the construction of the new facility is the types of calls reported for which were suspicious vehicles and noise. My question for you is, are we on the verge of a downhill spiral to our neighborhood? The data seem to point to it. When I looked at the neighborhood surrounding the Planned Parenthood location at 104 Babcock, they have an astonishingly high volume of police calls. Jefferson, which is the area in which the clinic is located, has 988 police calls. This is more than a 3,000% increase from our quiet neighborhood. Maverick Neighborhood Association, which lies directly to the north of the clinic has had 1,741 police calls, and Monticello Park, which lies toward the south and west of the clinic, has had 744 police calls. We believe that this new location of Planned Parenthood will bring an increase of crime to our neighborhood and host along with another host of serious issues. We do not want this business in our neighborhood. I spoke with some of the workers on the site, many of whom did not know that they were working at an abortion facility. When offered legal help, one of them admitted to me that he was an undocumented immigrant without papers to legally work here. Now I'd like to introduce my neighbor, Lori Rojas, who will speak more about the concerns our neighborhood has. Lori.
Thank you. Councilman Nierenberg, as you know, we live in a quiet neighborhood. It's well established. Many of the neighbors have been there since the 1950s. We have hay rides for Halloween, 4th of July parties, Labor Day breakfasts, monthly ladies' coffees. We're a very active neighborhood with multi-generational families. We're currently working on an educational facility to go into our neighborhood. I have 4 kids, and my in-laws live just down the street from the Planned Parenthood facility. 2 child-oriented businesses are within close proximity, the Study Hall Daycare Center and Clarity Child Guidance Center. They have dozens of kids that go throughout the neighborhood on field trips, even just for walks. We also have wildlife in our neighborhood: deer, raccoons, possums, fox, peacocks. We have a game warden assigned to us. As people hunt deer, animals are mauled or they get sick and whatnot. Excuse me. Occasionally wildlife get into the trash and scatter it throughout the neighborhood. So with Planned Parenthood's garbage, such as swabs for STD checks and human tissue, we are greatly concerned about our kids and us picking up or being exposed to bloodborne pathogens. We don't want this facility to be zoned as an ambulatory surgical center, and we again request that you halt the construction of this facility. We also are concerned that there's a second article on the October 11th San Antonio Express News that says clinics around the state are seeing 4 to 7 times the traffic that they had even expected. So that 30,000 number could go over 100,000, 200,000 in a foot traffic of kind of an urban oasis. That's tragic. We are seeing an unprecedented business. If it was a strip club or an adult video store, they'd have to check with the residents before they went in. Nobody asked us. We got this article in the San Antonio Express News that this was going to be in our neighborhood. If I had to ask you guys, how would you feel if you found out this was going in your backyard? I mean, we passed this place to get out of our neighborhood. So we just really implore you, please stop this business from going into our residential neighborhood. And with that, I'd like to introduce another neighbor, Thelma Franco. Good evening.
We have a group already, Jed, so they have maximum time. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Thelma Franco, and I'm here to speak about the traffic problem. I live 7 houses down from where this facility is going on. And since, with all the construction workers and the protesters coming out, I mean, it's just incredible. What my concern is that coming out of that facility, and I've already encountered this about 5 times, just coming out of my own neighborhood trying to get across Babcock, they have their driveway coming out of the facility. People will come the wrong direction and shoot in front of me to get straight across instead of going the correct way. And this is greatly concerning because we have many children in our neighborhood, many elderly that wait to get across. And if these people are coming the wrong way or making U-turns, just this week, one day I had 2 people making U-turns. I'm having to sit there and wait till these people make a U-turn in front of me so that I can get across, get out of my neighborhood. And we had to ask them to put up a fence because their workers were driving over the curb to come down into our street just to get out of the facility instead of going out their own driveway. And that's just the workers right now. What's going to happen when we have 30,000 more people coming in and out of this facility, which they don't even have enough parking? I've been in our neighborhood for 20 years and we've never had this problem. And we're starting to have it now, and I'm greatly concerned. And so we're here to ask you to please put a stop to this. Thank you.
My name is Darlene Jimenez, and I'm here to speak in regard to the abortion clinic that is being under construction, remodeling on 2140 Babcock. I'm here as a tax-paying voter in District 1. More importantly, I'm here as a licensed professional counselor with a private practice in District 1, and also as a board-certified psychiatric nurse. In my private practice, frequently, the correlate in women and teenage girls to depression and anxiety, which is often the presenting problem, the correlate to that depression and anxiety is a history of forced or voluntary abortion. I'm very concerned about the mental health of the women and girls of our city. Secondly, as a volunteer professional counselor with the organization called Rachel's Vineyard, which is a retreat center, non-denominational, but run by the Catholic Church for men, women, families, spouses of women who have had, and young girls, teenagers who have had abortions. We are given 40 hours, a day and a half, with women, girls, young men who have had abortions. It is the most difficult work I have ever done, to be the volunteer counselor for this group of wounded people. I've been in practice for 42 years, and I've never done anything more difficult than to be present to the suffering of these people post-abortion, voluntary or forced, and their families. Often the teenage girls and their teenage partners have developed anger, resentment, and estrangement from their families who forced the abortion. I have been present to women who are in their 80s, who for the first time come to speak in a sacred setting about their woundedness post-abortion. And all of the women, young men, fathers, family members have said, we know that God has forgiven us, but we cannot forgive ourselves. And invariably, these people have been stuck in the vicious cycle of depression, anxiety, dysfunction, multiple partnerships, failed marriages, failed relationships with their children. So I speak on behalf of this population of wounded people, and I ask the City Council to consider the health and welfare of women, men, children, and families in San Antonio and the impact of this abortion center expansion in San Antonio for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez. Linda Caswell.
Hello, my name is Linda Caswell. I live in District 5. I am the founder of All Things New. We help victims of sex trafficking, human trafficking, and asylees. I've been working with this population for the last 7 years. I'm very concerned for the welfare of the women who are going to be going into the clinic, but also the fact that this abortion clinic is in a residential area. What most people don't know is that pimps and traffickers, the people who are in the drug cartels, will be using this facility. It's going to draw people from different elements from all over, and I would say probably even from Mexico and different states. These people do not care about the women, and so as soon as they find out these ladies are pregnant, they force them into having an abortion. Like I said, 90% of the women that I've helped have had forced abortions. So I would ask you to really consider this, that it will bring a different element into that neighborhood, but also it's contributing to the trauma that these women have been through. They've already been through a lot, so this would be just an additional trauma. And thank you, that's all I have to say, but I think it's an eye-opener for people too, because you don't realize that the pimps, traffickers, and their corrupt people who are on their payroll will be in this area. Like I said, they don't have any regard for life at all, and they're just thinking about their money. So they will be there in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Caswell.
Pro Tem, the members of our San Antonio City Council. For the record, my name is Jack L. Finger. First of all, Mr. Mayor, I'm a little confused about your rules. The rules that I understand exist for citizens to be heard. If you have a group of with the leader and two other members of that group standing here, they're allowed for 9 minutes to speak to you, the City Council. I'm here 6. Doesn't sound right. I think we need you to adjust that policy. Yes, you can do so under extenuating, completely unusual circumstances. We have hundreds of people here, but not for a group of about 15, 20 people. Now, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a killer. It kills babies. Now, 300,000 a year, at the very least, close to 400,000. Quite a few thousand here in San Antonio every year they do big business with. Planned Parenthood also kills the purity, the innocence of our teenagers when it tries to sell them on birth control devices without their parents' knowledge. Planned Parenthood also tries to kill the truth when it comes to the incidence of sex disease, the effectiveness of so-called birth control items and their effectiveness towards pregnancy. Yeah, Planned Parenthood has a very unsavory reputation. It tries to make grand illusions about everything about it, how good an institution it is, and even some people even been sold on that lie. But the fact remains it's still a killer. Now, Planned Parenthood is going to be a tenant in that building. These people who have come here and spoke earlier, they are actual owners of the property. They're wondering, why does Planned Parenthood have more rights than they do? You as a city council, you're going to be having to make a decision about Planned Parenthood pretty soon, especially if this zoning issue comes forward and it has to go through a public process whereby you have to make a decision. Every single one of you on this council will have to weigh in on it. Mr. Nuremberg, it's in your very district. You are the one who's going to have to set the example for everybody to follow. What will you decide? Will you decide to allow babies to live, or will you just allow them to be thrown in a trash can? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finger. Artman Lamb. Thank you all for coming this evening. That ends our citizen speaker. People yet? Go ahead, take 6 minutes.
Mayor Pro Tem, we can have 9 minutes. There's 3 of us. It's a group.
We're doing 6 minutes on groups tonight.
Okay. Appreciate y'all's time. Appreciate you allowing us to speak. We're here to talk to you about a matter of life and death. It's a matter of life for women who are not being protected. It's a matter of life for unborn babies who are being killed in the womb. So, Roseanne, did you cue up? What you'd like to see is what reality of abortion is. And it might be the most common surgical procedure that's being performed here in the United States, but it's misunderstood, it's not known, and when it comes to the way babies are evacuated from a mother's womb, whether they're torn apart by suction or pulled out and cut apart talking about the life. We're talking about the life of the mother. We're talking about the life of the baby. Can you explain the audio thing? We have an audio issue. Can we stop the clock?
Society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. I do not join in the belief that the Africans are equal in brain or mind.
We are paying for and even submitting to the dictates of an ever-increasing, unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all.
The laws of nature require the obliteration of the unfit.
The best way to hate a nigger is to hate him before he is born.
American eugenicists were routinely praising Hitler and holding up the Nazi eugenics program as a model for the United States to copy.
Non-white races must be excluded from America. The red and black races, if left to themselves, revert to a savage or semi-savage state in a short time. The only way possible of increasing Negro population is by means of controlling fertility. Birth control facilities could be extended relatively more to Negroes than to whites, since Negroes are more concentrated in the lower income and education classes.
We hope that the restraint of population growth can come about through voluntary means. But if it does not, involuntary methods will be used.
There should be national sterilization for certain dysgenic types of our population who are being encouraged to breed and would die out were the government not being them.
If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty by eliminating the poor and overcoming hunger by removing the hungry.
For all their failures, what the eugenics movement had accomplished was to lay the foundation for the next phase of mankind. And this is where they would find the success that they have been chasing for over 100 years.
I had you watch that because that's produced by what's called MAFA 21. They are documenting the racism of abortion. And Planned Parenthood has taken over where the KKK finished. Racism with slavery started when slavery ended. The tyranny of blacks particularly have begun. Over 38% of all black babies die in the womb of a mother through abortion. And over 21% of Hispanic babies die. We have our first black mayor in the history of San Antonio. We'd like to have more. We are eliminating future black citizens and future brown citizens by abortion, and we ask you to protect them and because San Antonio is indeed Planned Parenthood. What you have here on the screen right now is the facility that Planned Parenthood has purchased. And if you'll notice, they'll be coming, that's going northwest up Babcock. Everyone leaving 410 going up northwest on Babcock is going to have to do a U-turn to get into this facility. Every single person that's coming from 410 will have to do a U-turn at this small intersection. It's the same intersection that the association is concerned about coming out. The blue lines on the left on Beverly May indicate it's a very narrow street. And there's a red X. That red X indicates where they put a driveway, and then the association had them remove that and put it back to a sidewalk. So you have a very serious issue here. I bring this up because of zoning and pure traffic, that if it's going to be the killer facility for all of South Texas, the amount of traffic that's going to come through here is going to be incredible. And I don't know, we talked to the traffic department, John Jack and some others, but they have not gotten back to us. And we don't know if they've actually really looked at this piece. This is a serious, serious piece. And the association is going to have all kinds of people parking there and all kinds of traffic going through their association. The last piece is, this is 20,000 square feet of killing facility. It's 2 stories. And it's going to, for it to be profitable, has to have the traffic necessary just to sustain it. On top of other issues too, but I bring that to your attention only because we have talked to the zoning and we have talked to John Jack and trafficking and have not received anything of that. Thank you. Last, we'll leave you with is this picture. And
Thank you all.
this is the face that we're looking at here in San Antonio.
It's not just